We are speaking today with President Henry B. Eyring, first counselor in the First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. President Eyring served as the 10th president of BYU Idaho, then Ricks College, from 1971 to 1978. Welcome, President Eyring. We're glad to have you with us today.
So nice to be with you.
I'd like to begin by just discussing a few things you may have experienced prior to coming to campus. What did you know about the school before you were invited to serve there?
I was a professor at Stanford University, had been there for 9 years, and had tenure, which meant that I was expecting to stay there for the rest of my career, and got a phone call at my office at Stanford from Elder Neil A. Maxwell. He called me at my office and said, "I'd like to see you." And I said, "Well, if I'm ever in Salt Lake City, I'll be sure to give a call." And he said, "No, I mean tomorrow." So I got a plane to fly up and went to my father's home. He knew my father because they'd been at the University of Utah at the same time. So he met me in my father's living room. First words out of his mouth, "I'd like to ask you to be the president of Ricks College." There'd been no contact with me at all of any kind. He asked me to be the president of Ricks College, sitting there for essentially the first time, other than I had met him once casually at a talk. So I said, "Well, I'll have to think about it." And he said, "Well, you can think about it all you'd like to. We'll be seeing the First Presidency tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So I went in to see the First Presidency. Harold B. Lee and N. Eldon Tanner met me in the First Presidency's room, and President Joseph Fielding Smith was not there. And he walked in the room, said not a word, and sat down between the two of them after we'd been talking for a while, and never mentioned, in a 1-hour interview, never mentioned Ricks College. Elder Maxwell took me out to put me in a cab to go back to California and said, "Well, you've got the job if you want it." So I knew nothing of the job, knew nothing about what was going on, knew only that the school existed, but I had already been hired. I guess hired is the word. So then I arrived at Ricks College with only that introduction, had never been on the campus. I didn't know a thing about it, but I knew it was the Lord's school. And so I knew I'd be okay if I could just find out what he wanted to do.
When you came to campus, what institutional or individual strengths did you notice?
About all I can say is that I knew I was in a place unlike anything I had ever seen before. And if I had an impression come over me, it was to say, forget everything you think you know, just don't change this place much. And what I found was teachers more concerned with their students than I ever thought it was possible for a university. I mean, I'd had nice university professors over the years who were very kind to me. I'd never seen anything like these people. Not interested in themselves, only interested in their students. And thrilled to take very ordinary people and build them up so they do extraordinary things.
Well, as you set about to achieve some of those things that you just mentioned, did you receive and feel any help from heaven with you and your colleagues in accomplishing that?
I think the whole thing was heaven. Do you see? I mean, obviously, if that's what you're trying to do is to let the Lord keep his school the way he wants his school, then of course, to the extent that we were able to do that, it's all from heaven.
Well, maybe a little bit of a personal question. How did your experience at the school benefit you individually or your family?
Oh, it saved me and my family. I was on a path, you see. I mean, I was on a path of a career. And of course, by going to Ricks College, the career was over. I mean, in terms of the Harvard, Stanford, MIT kinds of thing. They were still nice to me, by the way. They would send me Christmas cards, but after that. So it was wonderful because it got my mind off the idea of my own career. And to sort of say, well, forget career. I'm here at a junior college in Idaho, and there's nowhere after this, so let's just do the best we can with this. So it was wonderful to kind of get my head straight. And then for my children to take them out of California, where we were living in a very, very different world, and they got farm jobs. And to this day, Henry, who you know, and his brother Stuart were taken up on a farm, a dry farm up nearby, by my home teacher, who said to me, "Look, you don't know how to raise these boys, I'll raise them." And he took them every summer up on his dry farm. These guys were just very young, driving his equipment. And so, yeah, for my family, it took them out of this sort of fast-track California to heaven in terms of where you raise a boy. And he knew that that would be the place that would keep me with my, quote, feet on the ground. And I learned some things there about that place that will stay with me forever. I was in the temple in Idaho Falls on the Saturday the dam broke. My wife and I were there. We left our 2 younger sons alone with a babysitter in Rexburg who did not speak English. Our 2 older sons were up on the mountain farming with Brother Moore. We knew the Teton Dam broke. We had no idea what that meant, except they said there's a wall of water 10 feet high heading for Rexburg. So we tried to head back to Rexburg, and the police stopped us. We had to stay overnight and had no way of knowing whether our children were alive or not. And my wife looked at me during the night and she said, "How can you sleep?" And I said, "Well, I know the kids are okay, and I'll need my strength in the morning because the college will play some part in the recovery, whatever it is." Anyway, we got back to Rexburg. The kids were okay. Henry and his brother Stuart were okay. And then we watched the recovery. The head of the National Disaster Agency came after about the second day, and President Ricks was running. He was then in charge, the stake president in charge of all the recovery. And the man said, "Now, what we do in a disaster is this," and he tapped off this. And President Ricks said, "We've already done that." And then he went through a list, and finally, after a while, the man said, "President Ricks, I think I'll just sit down and observe for a while." And then, you know, the yellow school buses poured in with people from all around to help us. And we had thousands of people for dinner that night at Ricks College because they lost their homes. And I watched the process of great Latter-day Saints under terrible pressure, valiantly, at complete self-sacrifice, dealing with what had to be dealt with. That's the kind of people that have always supported Ricks College and the kind of people that Ricks College produces. And so to me, it was just a great affirmation that what I had felt of the strength of the place was real, and it was demonstrated there.
Well, now we have BYU Idaho.
Yeah, we do.
And how has it performed relative to your expectations?
Well, you have to remember, I am the man who all the years I was the president of Ricks College would tell every booster who wanted to have a 4-year school, I say, just be grateful for what you have. So I didn't see it coming at all. So when you say, how did it fulfill my expectations? I didn't see that, you see. Had you asked me at the time and told me that that was going to happen, it would have frightened me, because obviously to be a 4-year school, to be as great as it's becoming, would have looked dangerous to me, because it would have, you know, all the temptations of forgetting who you really are. So I am just amazed. My expectations was that the Lord wouldn't lose this wonderful thing, and to my amazement, He's been able to take it into a great university, and He hasn't lost it.
What do you hope to see in the future with BYU Idaho?
I'm humble. Since I couldn't see this, I think I won't talk about what's next. I would think probably it will become world famous, and isn't that dangerous? It'll become world famous for the kind of students that come out of it, because they will be tremendously able. They will rise to the top of all sorts of situations, but they will still be the humble people that I found when I was there. So I expect miracles. I don't know what form it'll take. I'll take a guess at it. My guess is it will be more in the form of leadership's the wrong word, because it sounds like, you know, being stake presidents or being something important. People that will make a difference. Lots of them. And it'll seem unreasonable that many of them should come from one place. And my only worry is that we'll start to notice it, and that the world, in praising us, could undercut what actually is making it possible. I think it's God that's making it possible. And so I don't know, I can't tell you what form it'll take, whether it'll be political leadership or organizational leadership or just wonderful families. I don't know what it'll be, but it will be remarkable. And somehow, since he's already shown, the Lord has shown he can do it, he can do marvelous things and not lose the humility and the faith that the thing is built on. That'll be what'll be fun to see. What did it do for me? More than I can tell you. I'd had wonderful experiences at a lot of other places, but the one I had there, unique. There's nowhere I could have been asked to go that I could have had, I think, quite that experience, and I'm so grateful to it. And a lot of graduates and parents of students at Ricks College and BYU have that same feeling. It's just grateful that such a place existed and that you ever had a chance to be touched by it or someone you loved was touched by it.
Thank you for spending the time with us today. Very grateful.
Appreciate you.